are based on the motives that are related to the prospects of many municipal elections, procedures of selections of candidates for mayors, timing of selections, and interaction with citizens. These are one of the problems that they face inside their political parties in respective branches in Kosovo. Very promising answers are further those that Kosovar officials and activists have given in the question of on whether they think that there is a need of further decentralization of their parties regarding decision making. The range of those answers with yes is from 60% to 83%. However, as mentioned, these answers are quite problematic when compared with answers given in some other questions in the survey. Furthermore, these positive attitudes toward further decentralization of the officials of Kosovar political parties at the local level are quite difficult to understand given how low are the percentages of the same officials who think that the members of their parties are those with who should exercise control at the local level. Well, thank you very much for your attention.
We already had the opportunity during this panel to be informed about the methodology of actually the model of Mr. Professor Čular regarding the internal party democracy when we are referring to the analysis of the party laws. We use the model of Professor Čular. Susan Scarrow was also writing and having the approach with the three dimension, but in case of Professor Čular it was a two-dimension. Difference was institutionalization, which was not introduced in the Čular model comparing to the Susan Scarrow model. In this presentation I will present the data when we applied the Čular's model on the Montenegrin case, but also to give some information regarding the impact of electoral system on internal party process. Actually, it's more about presentation of the electoral system used in Montenegro. At the end, in the third part, we will see some data from the comparative candidate study, which was implemented, which was applied in the case of Montenegro, especially those data showing what are the attitude of the candidates when we are talking about the party laws, and also when we are talking about the electoral system and possible change within the legal framework in Montenegro. So before talking about the Čular's model, and I'm not going to go deep because already we had that information, so thanks to my colleague I will save some time. So actually just few information about electoral system used in Montenegro. So I tried to put in this table, I don't know how it's possible to follow the presentation, but actually in Montenegro we were using the same electoral system since introduction of it in 1990s. So actually in 1990 Montenegro introduced the multi-party system, and since then until now we are using list PR system. But there are some changes during that period, especially when we are talking about the size of assembly, the size of the parliament. Now we have 81 MPs in the national parliament, and that number is fixed by the constitution, so it's not possible to change it with the law. So we cannot, for example, introduce mixed member proportional system without changing the constitution, but actually on the other side, it's not possible to change electoral law without two-thirds support of the MPs, which is equivalent to the change of the constitution. So actually it's the same. When we are talking about the number of the constituencies and the size, there are some significant changes. So you can see in the column 4 that at the beginning, on the first parliamentary election, 1990s, we have 20 constituencies, and the size of the constituencies was differing from 1 to 29 in one constituency of MPs. So actually we can say that we had the impact, at least in some constituencies, same like, for example, first past the post system, because we have the one seat constituency applying the proportional system. So actually the effect is the same like we were using simple past the post system. So We had also in 1996 14 constituencies, similar size, and these were actually the engineering of the ruling party, the EPS, in order to make its advantage more stronger and to gain the absolute majority. And after that, in 1998, since then we have one constituency system, at large system. So actually, all MPs are elected in one constituency. Why that year is very important? Because that was in 1997 we faced the split of the ruling party of the EPS, which is still ruling. So we are the unique example, because actually what we are doing, we have one party ruling since introduction of the multi-party system. So that's why we are so unique. And one leader is ruling all the time. So and when Montenegro will become member of the EU, then Mr. Juncker will have the competition, because Mr. Juncker was the Prime Minister of the Luxembourg for 18 years, and now he is the President of the European Commission. So that would be really tight fight between two of them. So, but of course, Luxembourg cannot be compared with Montenegro, but this is something that we can compare, actually. So when we are talking about the party list or candidate list, all the time we are using the closed block list, but in one part, Professor Guati can tell more about that. In Serbia and Montenegro, we were using something what Professor Guati is calling modified closed list. So party could change the list of the candidates after the end of the election. So actually party will decide who is going to become MP after the election. No list order or preferential voting. So this is, I think that in Croatia was used similar model at the beginning of the 90s. No, yeah. So we are unique. Serbia and Montenegro are unique then. So it's even, I like that. And now we have the single at-large system with the differential threshold, but for minority lists. Very interesting model, but this is not the topic now, so I will not go in detail. But this is quite successful and good model introduced in 2012. Now we have the closed block list, so really the list order is block. When we are talking about the internal party democracy, we were analyzing in one of our articles within the project the party laws, the status of the political parties following the Čular model. My colleagues Dane and also Amer were presenting that model, so I will not use the time more, but you can see here in English, because presentation of Amer was in Bosnian, the Čular model and Čular graph. So there are those four models that we actually can fit some of our Montenegrin parties. So actually when we apply that model, we got those results. So actually, why those 6 parties? Because when we were deciding to select some of the parties, because idea was not to analyze all of them, because we have the problem with because our party system was not institutionalized, and there is the huge volatility, especially on the side of the opposition parties. So some parties are emerging, some are disappearing. We selected those parties which got the parliamentary status on the last 3 elections, and they have more than 2 MPs in the parliament. So they are not really strict criteria. So these are these 6 actually. DPS ruling party, SDP was ruling with the DPS for 18 years, not anymore. Bosnian party, minority party, but gaining the seat without positive discrimination. SMP, ex-part of the DPS, Nova, Serbian Nationalistic Party, Movement for Changes, very confused identity of the political parties now. So actually, when we apply that and rank them, you will see that actually putting that on the graph, that dominantly what is the characteristic of the political parties in Montenegro. They have really low autonomy, not high inclusion, and it is almost impossible to put some of them in the, let's say, part of the so there are no democratic political parties when we are analyzing the party laws. Of course, the party laws are not everything, so this is only one dimension in analyzing the internal party democracy. But what we noticed analyzing those statutes was actually that there is a tendency of presidentialization of political parties in Montenegro. We can say that actually Montenegro is facing with some kind of the personalization of the politics, which is not something new for the other countries. But here, when we didn't have the shift of the power, but one party is ruling all the time, then that is a huge problem. DPS is ruling party dominating political discourse and political map, and but even more stronger position has the president of SDP, the other ruling political party, which is not anymore in the coalition. But we cannot have example like Amer presented in Bosnia, so we don't have that kind of the SDP. Here, SDP leader is controlling everything, has huge power. So after that, what I wanted to compare is actually what, using some data from the comparative candidate study, what candidates for the MP position are thinking about some reforms within the party. So actually, the question here was what they think should the law on political party regulate internal procedures of making decision, procedure nomination of the MP candidates, or election of the governing structure of the political party. It's not something that is standard and used very often, that the procedure of the nominating candidates are regulated by laws. I think that in Norway, Germany, US, and in Finland, this is regulated by law, if I'm not right, that's what I read. So candidates for the MPs are thinking that that should be regulated by the law. When we are talking about procedure for nomination of the MP candidates, 38.2, election of the governing structure of political party to be regulated with the party law, law on political party, 27.2, and the same results when we are talking about regulating procedure of decision-making in political parties. This is about who is the most influential in the process of the appointing the candidates for MPs. You can see the national party leadership, party members in my constituency, etc. And one of the questions that is very interesting is actually about the electoral system, what they think should current electoral system, which is in use from the introduction of the multi-party system, should be changed. And we had some general question, and after it we also had some concrete. So what they think about those sentences, those positions. Voters should be able to vote only for parties, 61.8 things that should be applied. Voters should be able to vote only for candidate, 39.7. Electoral system should be consist of elements that provide stable majority of the party, 22.1, etc. But this is a little bit confusing. Very often MPs then don't, okay, there are no time anymore. So just to make this, but when we ask them about the concrete electoral system, 21% thinks that we should have proportional electoral system that we have now, 54% combination of the proportional majority, and which is for me really surprise, majoritarian or relative majority system, 11%. We think that they are seeking for some kind of the guarantees that if they are good, they think that they could be elected without the decision of the party leadership or the most or the so strong influence. Because when we are so the results about what they think about introducing the preferential voting, is confirming that 79% of the candidates, they are seeking for the introduction of the preferential system in the current proportional system, which is a surprise for me. I was not expecting. For example, this result is not so good when we ask citizens. Citizens are not really fan of that. Less than half of the majority, they are not for preferential voting. Maybe they don't know. I really think that our citizens, they don't know anything about electoral systems, but there is assumption that that our MPs, they know at least something about the electoral system. So what I can conclude is that actually that existing PR list system with closed block list strengthens the position of the party leadership. Party leadership actually is controlling the whole process of the candidate selection. In existence of the legal regulation, which would set minimal procedures for selection of the candidates, election of the party management, has created a situation in which central party managements are conducting full control over the selection of the candidates. And I already said central party managements are completely controlling the process of creation of party policy. And these are the conclusions regarding the Čular model, that we can say that our political party should be divided into two groups. Groups of the Low Democracy Party, SDP, SMP, and Nova, and Democratic Centralism Party, DPS, Bosniak Party, and Movement for Changes. These are some, let's say, my views how that should be regulated in our legal framework.